the podcast that covers CSGO and CS2 from noobs to pros.
Throwing Flashbang Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of the Throwing Flashbang Podcast. My name is Brad, and I am here with Bean.
I was told not to say hi by Brad, so we can go right to Brian now.
And Brian.
Hello, I am
In case you're new to the podcast, this is our second episode, so of course you're new to the podcast because we're new to the podcast. But we're going to be talking about kind of everything CSGO. So if that's your thing, then you're in the right place because we're going to kind of talk about things for the casual player, all the way up to competitive pro and what the actual pros are doing, because we talked about that in the last episode if you missed that one about the last Paris major. But we'll be sharing strategies, talking insights, and telling you stories about how you can level up your performance in the game, which I think is pretty cool. We're all excited to talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to dive into the CSGO marketplace and how it's kind of thriving right now, and it's getting bigger every day because of CS2, right? I mean, that's coming soon, so everybody's kind of getting excited and getting ready to trade and buy all these boxes and doing all these unboxings on stream, which is crazy, by the way. And we saw a couple of those past couple of weeks, right? Of guys just opening crates and crates and crates of stuff. So it'll be kind of interesting to deep dive into those. So we're going to be talking about skins and market trends and all about trading and collecting. So that'll be cool. And I would like to say we're going to talk a lot about epic clutch moments, but knowing this group, it's probably going to be more of hilarious oopsie daisies or why the hell did you do that kind of thing. So if you guys are enjoying the podcast on our second episode, be sure to like and follow wherever you listen to your podcast. Check out our social media channels because we're going to be doing some cool stuff, answering some questions from the audience, doing some potential giveways, and a lot more.
4 skins is what I heard.
We might be giving away 4 skins. My God, the second episode.
That's quicker, I think.
Even quicker than the last time.
Yeah, we're only 2 minutes into this one. That was really good.
8 minutes before, I think. It's usually between 6 and 9 minutes I do.
He's doing really good. I feel like it's going to get shorter and shorter. So can we go every episode with that joke? I don't know.
Just cut the time down real low, so it's gonna be.
I know it's a bigger. Yeah, I don't know if you can hit that target every time. Being, let's see, we'll see. Jumping right in, I think it's going to be more of a casual talk. We wanted to get into basics of CSGO and just starting out. And I know for me personally, there's a lot to learn in this game. I think we talked about that a little bit last time of like, this is not just your first person shooter where you get in and pick up your gun and you can actually be good at this game, right? I mean, this takes a lot of practice to be better.
I mean, like any game, there's, different learning curves and ceilings and stuff like that. And that's kind of why, we kind of talked about in the last podcast is why I don't like, Call of Duty and stuff like that is like, I'll put my time in and try to get really good at Call of Duty, but then there'll be guys that just because they played more time than me or they bought a blueprint or they did something and they're just way better than me. This game, you have to like literally practice, literally learn, tons of things. There's so many different things to learn. Whether it be the smokes, the audio cues, the, call outs, all that kind of stuff that you can't just pick this game up and expect to be best of the best, which in other games, I think as long as you have a good, hand-eye coordination and can run around and just point and click, that's one thing. But this game is not that.
It's definitely not. I mean, I know Gleason and I, even Knight said that you're not on Bean and we're just playing just the two of us. I mean, there's so many different little things to pick up here and there. Of like, oh, did you see that last play? Gleason will watch. Did you see that last play? Yeah, okay. Here's what you could have done differently. Or like, You're not utilizing this. Like we were talking about the mini map the other night, right? And how important just looking at that from time to time is, which is crazy. So Bean, talk a little bit about how important like sound is in the game, right? Because that's a huge part of just being able to know what's going on around you.
I mean, when I think about a lot of that, when I think of just audio cues and sound and stuff like that, I can think back to friends of mine that have played this game in the past, and they'll be like, how did you hear that guy? How did you know that was going on? So, I mean, just the importance of having good headphones is unbelievable. I mean, it is night and day. We're like, even if we go and like, we'll do a LAN and stuff like that, where I even remember this had to be like 3-4 years ago at Heinz house. and Hein was going to get a drink or something like that, and he went AFK briefly, and I jumped on his computer just to, finish the round out. And he's upgraded since then, but using the headphones that he had was just like, no wonder why you can't hear anything, because these headphones aren't giving you the cues. They're not, I mean, every single map, whether it be, Mirage having, the underpass and stuff like that, where you have to differentiate if they're rushing through underpass, they're coming through the apartments. I mean, there's so many different ways, and, when to rotate. So like somebody accidentally jumps and makes a little noise, like, oh, geez, I know that guy's still there. Or, he accidentally made a noise, or, he missed a flashbang, you hear it hit a double wall instead of just hitting a single wall that you don't have to turn away. I mean, there is just like, the amount of different audio cues in the game is incredible. And like, I think of like, I'm always going to compare it to other games and stuff like that, to why I think it's, the best game of all time. But, like Call of Duty, I'll be playing Call of Duty and I can't tell if the guy's above me, below me, sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right. I can't tell when there's a flashbang coming. There's just a billion different things that like, the audio is huge. Like try playing a game without your headphones on and just watch how important that they really are, because it's pretty incredible. Like, you really, really need to like immerse yourself in like every aspect of the game, not just visual, but having the headsets and stuff like that.
And we've even played games where we're watching somebody else and yelling to each other, like, how can you not hear that he's to your left?
Mm-hmm. And I would say a lot of the time it's, having not good headphones or not having them on the right way. I mean, there's been, it's embarrassing, headphones have gotten better, but I remember I had a pair of headphones a long time ago. They were some older like PlayStation wireless headphones, and they were like, you couldn't tell which one was left or right. Like the headphones I have on now, I know they're on the right way because they'll feel funny if I don't have them on the right way. But how many times I've played a game and been like, they're right behind you, and I turn around and I'm like, I don't hear anything behind me, but it's because I had my headphones on backwards. So I mean, it is like insanely important to just have good, how many times, like you said, we see that in a game and just people don't hear the cues.
It makes or breaks it, right? I mean, because that's one of the whole strategies is walking or crouch walking, and if you guys have told me this before, if you make a jump that's too high and they hear you, or you sometimes you pull out your gun and you hear the gun, like right, it gives you away. They know exactly where you are and where you're going to come from, so it ruins the strategy.
One of the biggest ones that's hard for people to like get and understand is when the bomb's being defused. Is like you can still cycle your sniper crosshair. You can cycle through your scope. So that's one of like the big ways to like get people to think that you're off the bomb. Is you can defuse the bomb and then cycle through your scope. So it makes it sound like you're still looking for people, but really you're still defusing. Because otherwise, like if they hear you reload or you do certain other things while you're defusing the bomb, or like even just walking or whatever, they know you're off the bomb. So there's like little cues you can give to like fake them out.
Wait a minute, that's the first time I've heard of that.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Like it's one of those things that even when I'm playing, where there's 10 other things going on, that now that I'm talking about it, I'll try to do it as much as I can tonight when I'm playing. But it's one of those things that sometimes goes over your head when you're playing. But that it's huge. Like I said, there's been times where you can win a round because you'll like, all right, I'm going to stay behind this box. The guy's defusing. Oh, he let off because I hear the sniper scope. Nope, I'm just cycling through it just to make you think that I'm off the bomb.
And then the reverse of that is when sometimes we don't have an angle on the bomb. Like say there were two of us, one of us died. The last guy doesn't have angle on the bomb, but somebody's possibly defusing, just shooting your gun in their direction, even though you don't know where they are or can't actually hit them, can draw them off the bomb as well. Just
I would say that works like 80% of the time. That if you hear somebody defusing and you're not in the best spot to get the guy defusing, and you just spray your gun in the general direction, they will get off the bomb to want to fight that fight. And you end up winning it just to get them off the bomb.
Yep,
that's a good tip. And going on the topic of cycling through guns and whatnot, like keybinds are super important. And you guys have told me this time after time. Gleason and I were actually talking about it again last night, cycling through, because I rarely ever use the button to go back to last weapon used. Right, I will always use the mouse wheel to kind of scroll through guns, because that's how I do it on other FPSs when it's like switching weapons, right? You just mouse scroll. At least it was for me always. But just the way that you have it set up, as far as get comfortable with the crouches, get comfortable with where your walk is. Interact button. I think you guys jump on me all the time because I think you use E for interact to diffuse.
Yeah.
and I have it to F only because it's easier for me to jump to the right on the keyboard than it is for me to go, use the middle finger to go over to E from
Mhm.
straight, right? So it's stuff like that of like know what your keybinds are. It's like crucial because I've seen guys that use the mouse scroll wheel like me and can't get to the gun they need to fast enough. I literally, you guys are gonna yell at me. I literally have to scroll through all my different utility, all the grenades to get to the one I want, and that sometimes gets me killed because I don't land on the right one because I'm
Yep.
trying to scroll too fast.
Yeah, and that's kind
One
of
of
what I was
my
saying.
like
Last,
old school like things that I think about with myself with keybinds is sometimes I feel like I've played the game for so long that I'm like trying to be too old school about it, where I'm like, I don't want keybinds because I mean most pros they just have buttons they press to buy the weapons they want. You just push one button, it buys the M4. You push this, it buys, M4, head armor, flashbang, whatever. But like me, I buy everything. I mean, I remember the days like that's how like I'm thinking about back in the day, you had to buy ammo. So like you would get an AK with 30 bullets and you would have to hit either comma or the period button and that would buy you 15 bullets at a time and you had to buy your ammo. And like you had to like put that into your like thought of like how the economy went too because like you want to buy an AK with no bullets because I forget what they were, $50 a piece, whatever they were. 50
yeah,
bucks per 15 or 30 whatever it was. But like
yeah,
I'm so like I think about that old school still too. Like when I buy, I'm still moving my mouse around or B42 or B whatever. I'm still doing the old school binds to do all that stuff where they're super important. I mean, that's always like there's like different levels of everything. And it's like once you get, the groundwork, done and stuff like that, and then you can start working on your key binds. Then you can start working on different, that's like a different level of like moving up and getting better.
I don't use I don't use that to buy guns like that. Gleason, do you use the buttons to buy guns or do you just click?
I click. I bring up the menu and go through with my mouse using the circles and click real
I don't
fast.
trust myself enough to do it.
So one of the ones that you'll see sometimes, you'll see it a lot. Actually happened the other night when we were playing with those guys on Overpass, and that guy was using the revolver. I don't know, was Brad playing that night when the guy kept using the revolver all night?
I don't
But
think so.
he
That doesn't
he
sound
it was
familiar.
like the last round. He must have had one of his buttons bound to buy a revolver, and he just spammed it and just shot out like 20 freaking revolvers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely wasn't on that. I don't think I remember that one. I don't
yeah.
remember that
He
one.
bought a lot. He bought like 10 or 20 revolvers for no reason, and he bought us to all use them. It was,
He was
yeah,
pissed when we didn't.
yeah,
But the keybinds are important, but like we also talk all about like your mouse and the sensitivity and the crosshairs you're using on that. So why don't you get into that, Gleason, a little bit?
yeah. I mean, the crosshair thing, very divisive topic, I guess you could say. Um, Everybody's got their own personal preference. Like I was just watching like IEM Dallas today, and they were talking about I think Nico on G2. Somebody tried to use his crosshair, and it's like a apparently super tiny crosshair. Sometimes you can hardly see, and they're like, "How does he use this?" But that's what he uses. Most people tend to use fixed crosshairs, but you'll see a lot of guys tend to be the newer guys starting out. They like the active ones, so they can kind of tell when they're moving and shooting and try and learn that. But in my opinion, usually it's good to just switch to some sort of fixed crosshair that you like, so you're consistently aiming at the right spots versus one moving all over the place, and then
Right.
from there just learning how to properly shoot. Um,
Because
Sensitivity is another, just a whole nother one. A lot of it personal preference. A lot of it depends the DPI of your mouse. Some people like to want to use like, oh, this pro that I like uses this sensitivity. I'm gonna try that, and a lot of it too is just kind of what you get comfortable with. There's no, like, say you've been on 1.0 sensitivity at 800 DPI for a long time. There's no reason, like, if you feel it's not work, like you're doing an A map, kind of trying to practice, and you're seeing, okay, I'm overshooting some targets, and you're just not getting. You're trying to refine it, trying to get used to it, but say it's just not working out. Some people get nervous about wanting to change their sensitivity, like, if I change it, it's going to ruin my whole game and every other
right.
aspect of it. Whereas no, you should try and change it, and maybe it's the better sensitivity for you. It just takes changing and then getting used to it from there and kind of training yourself on it. I've just lowered my DPI and kept my sensitivity the same, so my mouse sensitivity is a little bit lower than it was as of a day ago. So I'm trying to see how that works out, just to change it up a little and see if I think it was a little too fast before, so I'm just kind of seeing how that goes. But it's one of those things you just gotta try and refine. Usually, you want somewhat of a lower, depending obviously DPI. Most people tend to be like 4 to 800 DPI. Some pros still use 400 DPI just because it's what they've used for years, and they just like to stay with what it is versus a higher DPI. But like a one sensitivity at 400 DPI converts over to a 2 or 0.5 at 800 DPI. I always kind of mess that up. Takes me a second. Um, it's going to be pretty much
This
the
the
same
same. Yeah.
for the most part. The way sensors are with mice these days compared to the way they were years ago, they're pretty consistently. They usually don't have issues with either. Some of it's just kind of personal preference, but it just takes a lot of getting used to it and seeing if what you're using is working for you, and if you find yourself going too far past people when you try and aim at somebody, or you got somebody running across and you're just lagging behind and you consistently see you're doing that, it's time to change the sensitivity
Yeah.
and see what helps.
I mean,
Uh,
even I know that, like, when I play that, like, if I'm playing deathmatch, getting warmed up or doing whatever, and I see that I'm shooting a little ahead of everybody when I'm playing, I will turn down my sensitivity. Or if I'm looking at myself and I'm shooting down, I'm shooting behind a lot of people, I'll just turn it up like a half or whatever, the ratio would be, where usually mine's like a half, where I'll go from like 6 to 6.5 or down to 5.5, depending on, the night. And I mean, I haven't done it as much because I'm trying to get more serious back into playing and stuff like that. But I mean, I used to change the color of my crosshair depending on the map I would play. Because sometimes the
Oh
green doesn't
wow.
show up well against stuff, and then like if you're playing like Vertigo and stuff like that, it can be you want a different colored background for whatever. Where it used to be a quick little button where it was just I mean it's even easier now. You can change the color depending on the background of what you're using. Where each map's a little bit different color and all that, so you want it to be the highest visibility that you can get.
Yep.
I personally, when it comes to like the sensitivity and stuff, I think I'm at like DPI 450 and the mouse sensitivity is at 2.5, whatever that means to anybody. But I've noticed that I tend to do better when I'm trying to set the DPI for mid to long range when it's less sensitive, right? I mean, it reports still at the same rate. The mouse still reports at the highest rate that the mouse can report at, but I want it less sensitive when I'm going mid to long range, because I don't want it to be like on a switch, right? If I just move it a little bit like this, I'm off the guy. But then that comes back to bite me, like Gleason was talking about, was somebody runs in front of you in close range. I gotta almost like double swipe the mouse over to get onto them in time, right? Because I can't keep up with it.
Yep. And I guess one thing in that regard is to kind of just try and in the back of your head as you're playing games, see what happens more often. If you're not really engaging that many times at long range and keep getting wrecked, like short, like cat, or pushing into B just from that issue, then it's time to probably raise that sensitivity up a little bit, and then practice maybe at long range with that higher sensitivity to see if you can kind of refine that better, and then you'll be better at close range type thing as well. Kind of depends, especially if you don't have like, say you're at short, you have a small mouse pad space. Ideally, you like to have a bigger
Sometimes you run
space.
out of real estate.
Yeah, but if you're
Yeah.
consistently running out of real estate and you're like, this is annoying, you should probably see if you can handle a higher sensitivity to kind of compensate and kind of refine it from there. It all
Yeah.
kind of varies what works, but just try.
And the number one most important thing, Brad, can you tell us what the most important thing to disable on your Windows PC?
Oh,
Do you
what's it
remember?
called? Mouse acceleration?
There you go.
Yeah.
If anybody listening right now,
I
turn it off
became
immediately.
a legend. I think everybody would agree. A legend overnight when I turned off mouse
I'm
acceleration.
planning on telling my kids about it.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could tell Brad the second. I thought you were gonna just name him after me.
I do have the story mounted over my mantle, just for special occasions when story time arises around the fireplace.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. So like getting prep, the hardware and all that kind of stuff is absolutely crucial, because that makes a big difference in this game of just making sure that everything is working like how you want it to work. But now, let's say you're in the game, you're starting off in a round, and one of the first couple rounds especially, what I think that everybody overlooks is utilities, right? Your grenades, your flashes, your incendiaries, even decoys, like have a huge part in this game. So like, why are utilities so important?
Oof. For many reasons. Depending the utility, they have a lot of different advantages they can give you. I was actually just watching Warall came out with a new video today, and it was highlighting DreamHack from 2013, the grand final, versus Gamer Legion and Heroic in the recent Blast Paris Major.
Mhm.
And it was Fnatic, T-Side, Inferno, which in today's game meta use Molotovs everywhere for apartments, going up banana to try and get banana control. They're very crucial in today's like game meta from over the years. Uh, Fnatic didn't buy a single Molotov the entire T side because Molotovs just they didn't establish the importance or how to use them until years down the line when pros figured out, oh my god, this is actually game changing. A lot of them are still using HE nades from the 1.6 and source days, and just even looking at that, which I never really noticed, but Warall made a great point of it. I mean, that's kind of massive how big Molotovs are, for example. Um, the other big thing is with utility is being consistent and using utility for good reasons and not just using utility to use utility. For example, me and Brad were playing last night. We were playing on Cash, and he was last one alive. He was trying to approach the bomb site from truck, and he had, I think, two flashes and a smoke. You did use your utility, which is good, but you just kind of you pulled them out. The smoke and the first
Yeah.
flash was kind of good, but the second flash just kind of just threw it, just to throw it almost, and then he kind of peeked, and I think he got shot from there. So it's one of those things. But it's good. You're trying to find ways to use it, and you're getting used to using it because one of the biggest things when I've been playing and learning over the years, I wouldn't use utility for a long time, or I'd do it wrong, and I would just think, oh, my raw aim's good. I can peek this guy and kill him. Whereas now the skill ceiling or skill floor, I should say, for aim is quite high. So a lot of times you're not going to win certain battles if they have the angle on you without you using some sort of utility and also using it consistently in the right ways. And then from there, there's a whole you can use, like, for example, Molotovs. They're good for blocking off or delaying an execute. So if you're an apartment or you're on B site Mirage, and you hear them coming in apartments, but you don't have mid control, so they can also be coming cat. You can Molotov apartment, hopefully slow down them a little bit, and potentially block that rush for 10, 20 seconds. And if they do start coming cat, take those battles with good angles, and then if you do kind of win those, go back to apartments, they could still be trying to rush out of there, or you just shut down that rush completely, and they've now walked it back trying to regroup because they lost two guys on cat, and their whole plan is in shambles. So that's another huge use for Molotovs. Smokes are kind of similar to Molotovs, and you can throw them, and sometimes it brings teams to a halt. But you can still creep through smokes, whereas you can't really creep through a Molotov because they'll obviously take damage, and you'll have the audio cues telling you that. Where a smoke, they can creep through it, and you won't know until they've peaked, and if you're not looking, you're a dead man there. So it is.
Well, and we've talked about this before. They can have angles, right? So if you're T side, you're trying to get into one of the bomb sites. Obviously, they're going to have angles on it. So that's when those things like smoke or flash are going to definitely help you because you're blocking the view of wherever they're positioned, right? Because they're waiting for you to come around a corner, right? Come up the ramp, wherever, depending on where you are. So like that's crucial sometimes to be able to blind them for like even a few seconds, right?
Yep.
So huge importance when it comes to utility and whatnot. And speaking of guns and shooting and getting positions, one thing that I learned big time from this game is like don't walk and shoot. And now you guys, it's like a running joke because
Running joke.
yeah, running joke, no pun intended, but it works. We'll watch guys now, and now that I understand how difficult it is to get a walking or running shot, like it's crazy. So like why is this game different as opposed to, again, a Call of Duty, an Apex or whatever when it comes to movement and gun spray?
I almost feel like it's like encouraged in Call of Duty and stuff like that. Like when I play Call of Duty, like I am almost every single gunfight doing a jump. It's some sort of my spray to either initiate the gunfight or to get them off their gunfight, get in a better position or like crouch or do some sort of movement while I'm shooting. Like there's no like nothing negative about like movement and stuff like that. Like you don't get any sort of like nothing bad happens when you have all sorts of crazy movement in those games, which to me is crazy. Where like, I mean, if you're trying to do stuff, I feel like, just in general life, you can't just jump and be as good as you are walking and all that. So like in Counter-Strike, there's a lot of stuff, just let alone the sprays and each gun has their own specific spray pattern. They have their own specific, and they're all like repeatable. So there's nothing like out of the ordinary and can jump out at you. And like, one day the AK is going to be different than it was yesterday. And it's no, it's the same all the time. It's always going to be that same like upside down 7 looking thing. And, and
Explain that a little bit more. When you talk about spray patterns, explain that, like, how many shot, right? It's a couple bullets that come out, and then what happens to it?
So I don't know exactly. Like I'm not like as like big of an expertise as I used to be on it, but I'm pretty sure it's like maybe 4 bullets, maybe 5 bullets you can get out of the AK before it starts becoming like, and it's like a straight. I mean, let me just restart a little bit. A spray pattern is when you're shooting the gun at a spray without letting go of the mouse click button of the fire button. It's going to have this pattern of where the recoil is going to end up by the end of the magazine. And you take that gun and the AK, for the first like 3 to 5 bullets, it's straight down. So you got like a 3 to 5 burst where you're gonna have 3 to 5 bullets that are just gonna, as long as you pull the mouse down straight, they're all gonna go in like a general same area. After that 3 to 5th bullet, it starts curving to the left, then it goes back to the right, and it comes up a little bit, then back to the right again. And I mean, it's all stuff you can look up. Or like if you Google, AK spray pattern GIF, and there'll be, all different, the spray patterns for the AK, spray patterns for the M4. It's just a way to be able to control the spray where, a lot of the times you want to have one-on-one engagements. So you'll be able to do, a 3-round, 4-round burst, get the guy killed, as long as you shoot before he does, have a better position and all that. But say that you miss your first couple shots, or there's multiple enemies coming at you, you have to be able to control your spray when they come around that corner. And, that's, super important. And then on top of that, not only is there the spray, but you have to pretty much not be moving at all for it to be able to be important in Counter-Strike. And, when you hit your, I use the WSAD keys, and you're moving around, running around and all that kind of stuff, it screws your aim up. You have movement speed, and then there's like the deacceleration where like if you let go of the key, you keep moving forward just a little bit. So to counteract that, if you're hitting forward, you have to hit the back button, or if you're moving left, you have to hit the right button to counteract that quicker. So that's why a lot of people do like the jiggle peaks and doing all that, kind of advanced movement stuff where there is a lot of like, it's not just running around, jumping around corners and, doing 360 no scopes and all that where, they're doable. But that's why they're so much more, they feel so much better when you do them because it's so insane.
It's funny how different it is, honestly. And like, that's still one of the really bad habits that I'm trying to break in this game is I still have the habit of I turn a corner or an enemy comes around the corner and I see him. The first thing that I want to do is run and most oftentimes jump and try to shoot. And I will never land like the kill ever, right? I might get a hit or two on him, but I will... I will never get a freaking kill on it. It's an amazing way that like they've changed, not that they've changed the game because the game's been around since, longer than others, but just the fact that that game differentiates in that way where you have to stand still changes the way that you play it and you strategize, right? Because you want to be still for most of those shots. Which leads me to my other big thing that I'm trying to break is just being a chronic reloader. It sounds dirty, but it's not. But I have a terrible habit of reloading after I kill an enemy or I shoot, 3 to 5 shots or whatever, only because, from other games, whatever, I always want to be prepared. So you think about Call of Duty, you think about these open area games like Apex, where you always want to have a full magazine so you're prepared for whenever you engage an enemy. And I constantly have to tell myself not to reload after I'm engaging, right? I kind of know how many shots I've landed on a guy. I kind of know what the damage is. we'll get into console a little bit later, so we know like how it lays out for us. Like, you know, Brad dealt X damage to this player, so you kind of have an idea of what you've done and how much you've hit them. But I guess the point is it gets you into a different mindset of, okay, I have this many bullets left in the gun. You don't even have to kind of look at the bullet count once you get used to it, right? You kind of have a feel like, all right, you know, I got 3/4 of the bullet of the magazine left, or I got at least half left.
Yeah,
But there's sometimes where you're down to the last bullet and you're like worried about it, right?
yes. Once you get towards the last 5 bullets, you get a little nervous. But the more you play, like I never look at the actual number. Like I can have issues where I miss my first few shots and it takes a few more bursts, and I won't reload because I'm already even without the audio cue the game gives you now when you're at like 5 bullets or whatever. Even though I haven't hit that point, I can still kind of tell. Okay, I've got I already have a feel of how many I have, and I'm not reloading it because I'm fearing another guy is going to peek. And the more you play, you'll get used to it. You just got to avoid just hitting the R button all the time, which you just got to get used to. And then eventually, you'll just know. It's like RPM in a car. You're going to know where you're at without having to look.
It's
With
gotten me killed
good
so many times though, right? I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's been several times. I mean, not to throw you under the bus or anything like that, but I remember there's one time specifically with the SG that you had like smoked 2 dudes and like 7 bullets, and there was another guy coming around the corner, cat, and you reloaded for no reason, and the guy just came around and one tapped you. It was like, damn it, Brad, you had it.
Yeah. It just takes time, but you'll get there. It's just old habits die
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's like a Call of Duty thing too, where you're always plowing through ammo in that game, and it's a bad habit from other games because this game is not like other games.
Yeah.
which is just common practices of like stuff you gotta get better at. But I will say one thing that I love about this game, and this is gonna get into like our quick beginner tips before we kind of end the episode here. But communicate with your team. My God, I have taken it, taken for granted the fact that like we have a good group of friends that all play together and we all kind of learn and teach each other, and that's awesome. And just the basic things of where are you going this round? Are you going to A, B, long, covering cat? Like what are you doing right now? Like it's been crucial. I was playing the other night. You guys were just not available. You weren't able to play. So I hopped on and played with a few randoms. And my God, trying to engage with these guys and gals and like just try to say like, here's what I'm going to do. Nobody was talking to me. Nobody was answering. We had players that were going to the same location, right, for CT, like covering long. I think we had one round. I laughed like out loud. I laughed. We had 4 people run for long A on it wasn't even a pistol round or a save round, just full charge long A. I was the only one at mid, and the entire T team went B site and just dominated the whole round. And it's like, you guys, you gotta have a game plan. You have to communicate with people in this game in order to win. And like I can't overemphasize strategy and just talking to your teammates enough, right? I mean, it's coming. How many times does it come in handy for us? Like where we're actually trying to figure out like, oh, I just got shot here. He's going this way. You got to go over there, right?
I mean, most of the game just relies on communication. It's no different than like playing a game of basketball or playing stuff like that, where if you're not communicating with your team, you're not talking, you're not giving call outs, you're not, working together to come up with a plan of what you want to do next. Or even like when it becomes most crucial to me is when it's the end of the round, it's you and somebody else. And somebody's got the bomb, you're on this part, and you got to kind of communicate to how you're going to get to those places. If you're not using your microphone and you're not like communicating with your teammates, you're just not going to win. I mean, you can try to hard carry and you can try to carry with just being quiet and all that. I mean, if your aim's good enough and you're in a low enough rank, it can happen sometimes, but you're not going to, if you ever want to get out of good, if you want to get into decent ranks and, play, like if you ever play Face It or ESEA and stuff like that, those people it's so important to have strategy and communication and just working together all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And even just basic call outs, like where you die B tons, you say you see 3 people rushing B, like or rushing tons. It gives everybody else good info. Just even that quick call out without even any detail. It's like, okay, we know where 3 guys are on the map right now, and we can kind of change what we might be planning on doing or throwing utility here or there. Or should I throw my Molotov yet? I'm gonna probably throw this now or the smoke. So it's big in that regard. Just the basic call outs are huge.
And
Versus not
I'm
thinking.
I'm going to throw myself under the bus on this one when it comes to communication. But how many times have I been on B site on Dust, looking down tons, waiting for somebody to come around, and you guys will say, Brad, you need to rotate. It's A. They're all at A right now. You're just sitting at B tons. Okay. Yeah. No, you guys are right.
Like the mini map yesterday, like I was looking at I was on B
Yeah.
site. I looked at the mini map. Just a quick glance, I see two of our teammates dive long. No call outs because the rest of the randos weren't talking. But I knew, okay, I'm going to start moving towards A because they've consistently rushed 5 in the same group every time in this particular game. And then I'm already halfway through mid, kind of going to cat, and Brad's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Brad, uh, our team's not on the left side of the map anymore. We gotta go." But
I
it's just
just
things like that.
it just went over my head. And it's
Yeah.
just it's strategy. It's strategy. Like there's strategy like every time, like going back to utilities and guns and when to buy and all that kind of stuff. Like how important is it to figure out when to buy and when not to buy?
It's very important. Um, and even in the lower ranks, just not instantly at the round starts being like, "Oh, I have 5 grand, I can buy," and then just buying and not looking at what your team's doing, which is it's massive in the lower ranks. Just trying to have an enjoyable game. If you just pause for a second, and be like, "Hey, what are we gonna do here?" And hopefully you have some teammates if you're playing in a random, 5-man group that they might communicate and be like, "Well, I'm gonna buy." Or even if nobody's communicating, if you see 3 of your teammates buy, you've got the money to buy. Okay, I'm gonna buy to kind of help my team versus saving. Or maybe you wanted to buy an op, you don't quite have the money. 3 of your teammates buy like, well, I should probably buy something this round so we can get a team win. So next round I should be able to then buy the op versus kind of being selfish and I can buy this round, my team can't buy. I don't care, I want to use the op and then just buying it. And
I've
it's
never done that, by the way. I just want to let you know that I've never.
Today, you mean? You haven't done that yet
yeah,
today
you
because
haven't
we
done it
haven't
'cause we
played yet tonight.
haven't opened the game yet.
Right, we haven't opened the game yet. I haven't had the opportunity to. Yep.
You've been buying certain guns on certain rounds too. Like say you won the first round and you're gonna anti-eco, or you might want to buy SMGs this round and not buy rifles. To where if your team might screw up, the enemy's now gonna have AKs on round 2 or going into round
I mean,
3.
it all boils down to also with the communication, like we were talking about a second ago, where it is important. The economy of the in-game economy is just like super important. Like to be able to have like communication and just being able to look at your, hitting tab and seeing the scoreboard and just realizing, or it's even got on the side now where you can see what your teammates got for money and all that. And it's like, it's extremely important to rounds you win and rounds you lose. And especially like during that's something Brian and I have kind of realized, short matches being relatively new, us just coming back to the game recently and stuff like that, where, you screw up your economy on a short match and you're just screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how important it is when your team is running pistols and you had bought an op, and it's like, okay, well, you kind of screwed us for the next couple of rounds here because you're going to be broke because you're going to die because you're a beginner and you don't know how to op, Brad. And
That was
so
bad talking.
yeah, sorry. So I mean, it's really important. But the other big thing that's like super important when it comes to like, especially beginning and starting out, is not only learning the maps but learning the freaking call outs. Because how many times have you guys said something, especially when I first started playing, and I go, what the hell is marshmallow? What is secret? Where are you talking about right now? I have no idea where you guys are. So like that's super important, right? Like just to figure out what those call outs are.
I mean, I feel like it's one of the most like single most important things to do when it like becoming like a beginner player, just because when you are playing with somebody that's been playing for a long time, that that's how they communicate with where enemies are, where they died, where where to go next, where the bomb is, just giving you ideas. Like I mean, it's not like you're at you got to be able to give an idea of where things are. And if you don't know the common call outs, and I mean, for the most part, I mean, even if you're in the game, it'll kind of tell you you're at long A, you're at short A, you're at cat, you're at goose, you're at all these different little places. And I mean, it's just, if you don't know that stuff and somebody says, hey, they're behind you at goose and you have no idea what goose is, you're just going to get you're gonna get your butt kicked about it. Where, you got to let people know, you got to figure out where the call outs are. I mean, they're generally obvious, But some of the problems with some of the ones like Marshmallow is like that's some of the call outs from a long time ago that just never changed.
Right.
And I mean, we kind of talked about that in the last podcast a little bit, where some of these call outs were, 20 years ago, there was a truck there. 20 years ago, it looked like a marshmallow there. One of the silos looked like a marshmallow. And now it's like, you got to learn that stuff. Because if you don't learn it, you're just going to get your butt kicked because you don't know where they are, where they're coming from, or, where to go next. Where if like, hey, we're going to go lower mid to B. And you're like, lower who to what? And
Yeah.
then go from there. And, that's, it makes a big difference of, just being able to communicate with your team. It's just like another level of communication.
You know what amazes me is that after 20 some odd years of this game, they haven't invested in WD-40 to fix the doors because every door is called squeaky in this game.
It's funny. It's hilarious.
It's amazing. It's a multi-million-dollar game, right? All the money they've made on this, they can't fix the squeaky doors.
Can you
I just
imagine
don't
that was
understand
something
it.
you could buy for like $500. You can buy a can of WD-40 so you can like
Go through doors
go through doors stealthily.
I think that we create a mod, and it's basically the handyman of CS:GO. You fix all the problems with CS:GO.
The guy's got a big broom running around.
Yeah. I still don't understand why a secret is called secret. Is there any reason for that? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure Brian can maybe correct me, but there used to be a little spot a long time ago where you could go down into there, but it didn't go down. It didn't go down to the bomb site. So there used to be a little door and a little area that went down, but it didn't actually connect to the down bomb site. So you could go into there and it was like a little secret area because there was nothing else to do in there besides, wait for people to come by.
Huh. Yeah, it's some of the
pretty
call
sure
outs. Just the history. Like if you haven't played it for that long and you're trying to like follow the logic, you're like, why is this just clear staircase that goes down to the bomb site called secret? It makes no sense at all. It's not behind a secret door.
Or like you call like what's the one on Mirage? You call it like picnic, and there used to be a picnic table there. Now there's no picnic table.
Oh, I don't
There's a
even know that
bunch.
call out.
I think the picnic isn't that the one over in the middle over by where the chair is now? There used to be a chair and a picnic table. I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong. Somebody can
Where-
correct me in the comments.
Uh,
Or is that in B? Or is that on B?
In Mirage?
Mirage. Was that Mirage where it used to be? I know there used to be a picnic call. And is that bench? It
I
used to be
feel like
bench,
it's
used to be
what
picnic.
what is bench now? And some people call that mini wall, but some people call it bench. So it's still up in the air. Like I hear some casters and stuff call it mini or mini wall, but I've as far as I can recall, I used to call it bench for a long time. But I think
I remember calling it picnic forever.
yeah,
Because I think
Well-
there used to not be a wall. I think now it's all kind of coming back to me. I think there used to not be a wall there, and it used to just be a little picnic bench.
Well, either way, I can tell you what, as long as your teammates know what the same call outs are, you're good. But that's true
something
because
I
we
talked
ran.
about playing with like other people that you don't know their call outs. Where there's been
Right.
times I remember playing with like, European people and they have different call outs for like everything. And it's like, really?
That happened last night, didn't it, Gleason? Didn't somebody call out something on Dust? And I said, I don't know what that guy's talking about.
yeah. The guy was kind of hard to understand in general, but yeah,
True.
I missed what he said to know what he even said. But yeah, he was a.
It was a strange call out, and I'm going, well, that doesn't really help me. But I mean,
He had a thick accent too.
I
There's
think. Go ahead.
Oh, didn't mean to comment. But just going back real quick to Secret on Nuke, there's a Reddit thread of somebody asking like, why is it called Secret? And one guy replied, "It's a secret."
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I think that's kind of our episode today. Just want to get into some basics of like starting off in the game and whatnot. I think once we get to video, if we ever get to video, you guys let us know, I guess, if you want us to go to video or not. But I think it would be good to like actually visualize some of the call outs, some of the strategies on these maps, so you can see like, here's where we're talking about. This is Picnic, by the way, and this is how we play Picnic, and this is how we set up for this map, because that's going to be really important, I think, for people listening and watching to see what the heck's going on, so we can kind of get better, because that's the whole point, right? Learn a little bit of something. Maybe you learned why it's called Secret today. It's a secret. I don't know.
Or you just like hearing her talking about CS, just enjoying conversation about it.
Yeah.
And like, especially if you're on like whatever platform you're using, have comments and stuff of things you want us to talk about, and if you have something to add to something that we can bring up in the podcast too, that would be nice.
And if you want to see our horrendous gameplay, if there's enough interest for that, maybe we'll also do some streams with some live gameplay. It might be interesting. It might be horrible. It'll probably be horrible if I'm playing.
We'll get more good first.
yeah. We got to get good.
Yeah.
Any lasting thoughts before we leave here, fellas?
No, I'm just all I can think about is playing a little bit of Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I definitely want to play right now.
You know what? That's a great idea. Let's get into it. So if you like the episode, be sure to follow us and check out our socials, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.